I'm Jeff Schulman. I'm a marketing professor at the Foster School of Business, and it is my pleasure to welcome students from across a variety of programs, not just the Foster School of Business, but other universities and other schools on University of Washington's campus, and to welcome some experienced practitioners who are just as eager as I am to learn from our guest speaker today, who is a VP at Salesforce. Foster the Product is a chance to connect with people and ideas that can advance your learning and help you launch successful products and help advance your product career. And it's not just a chance. So we're going to hear from Nirankush Panchbhai from Salesforce, the VP of Product Management there. And then we're going to break into groups and you'll get to discuss what you learned from the talk and also get to network and get to know each other. Foster the Product is more than just a nexus of people and ideas. It's really a community, and it's great to see. I'm seeing some familiar faces who've been here for our first few events, and I hope that you'll continue to come to our future events. Again, they're open not just to you if you're a student or an alumni, but we're trying to bring, there's a lot of value to bringing practitioners and students and people and ideas together in one place. So it's open to, it's an inclusive community, and our next upcoming events, we have Chris Peterson, who was the two-time Paul Bryant Award winner. That's given to the NCAA Coach of the Year, and he's going to talk about leading teams and aligning stakeholders toward the common vision. That's February 4th. And then we're going to have Jackie Bavaro, who co-wrote the book, Cracking the PM Interview. She's going to be presenting on cracking the PM career, and that's going to be on February 18th. And both of those were the first Thursday of every month. And then Jackie Bavaro is an extra bonus on February 18th. So please consider coming to those events. And also, if you're able to attend and you're not one of our students, please consider donating to the Foster School along with that registration, because your donation will help us continue to create a nexus of people and ideas that's inclusive and open beyond our Foster family. So please consider donating if you come to the next event, which is Chris Peterson. And please invite a friend and again, help us build this community that's inclusive and an exchange of people and ideas. So I've said enough about Foster the Product and gave enough time to welcome. We have a lot of people here on this call, and you're here more to hear from our guest speaker. And I'm really excited that Nirankush has generously given his time and expertise to all of you today. Nirankush is a brilliant product manager, spent over a decade at Microsoft. He's currently the VP at Salesforce, got his executive MBA at the prestigious Stanford GSB. And he's talking about something that he's had a lot of experience doing and that I think all of you need to be more comfortable doing. And that is saying no. It's not in our nature to say no, but doing so can really help you make sure that you engage in activities that add value to your customer and to your business. And so I'm really pleased to learn here today. And please give a warm, he could see you, so please clap your hands together silently for our prestigious guest speaker, Nirankush Panchbhai.
Thank you, Jeff. Thanks a lot. I want to take this opportunity to thanks Jeff and everyone who joined. It takes a big commitment for learning, and I appreciate learning a lot. So thank you everyone who joined today. As Jeff mentioned, I work for Salesforce now, and I lead the Lightning platform. This platform essentially acts as an accelerator for different SKUs which Salesforce creates. And I've been working for Salesforce for 2.5 years. It's an amazing company. I love working for them. Before that, I used to work for Microsoft, an engineer first, and then I moved to product management. I had a lot of white space on this slide. That's why I added those emojis on the right. But there is another important information on the slide, which is I love gelatos a lot. So if anyone wants me to say yes, that's a good way to make me say yes. Gelatos all the way. And talking about yes, we all are here to think about when and how to say no or stop. And as Jeff mentioned, as a product manager, this is something which you do every day. This was actually one of my big learnings when I moved from engineering to product, is how often I have to say the word no, and why is it important, and why it helps create productive teams and amazing products. And one of the things which I quickly learned over my career is like more than when and how, why you are saying no is very, very important. Having that understanding, having that decision making process of like why certain things are yes and why certain things are no is very, very important. And for me, it starts with the why and why we are building something. What are the products we are building and why we are building that? And it could be like it aligns with the vision, it aligns with your company values. It could be something which you are doing for customer satisfaction. It could be something which is aligned with your financial goals or your adoption goals. It could be solving a gap, a paper cut. There could be multiple different whys, but having that understanding of like, okay, these are the products we are building and these are the reasons why we are building these products or features is very, very important. Having that clarity helps you also get alignment, because the next big thing which I truly believe in is like no one person can make or break a product. Like building a product, building a feature is a team activity. Like product manager, engineers, UX, PMM, doc writers, and many other disciplines, they come together and they build something amazing with the common goals and common vision. And that's why having that alignment with each and every one and having everyone on the same page is very, very important. Like this is where most of the time like a PM like would spend their time on is like getting alignment and having everyone be on the same page. Now that you have understanding of like what you're building, why you're building, you have an alignment with all the stakeholders and everyone who is part of that journey. The next important thing is to understand is how will you measure success? Like everyone has brilliant ideas, like you're pursuing those ideas, you're building products, but it should also be a data driven thing. Like what data you would need so that you could say like, okay, I am on the right track. The team is on the right track. The products which we are building are on the right track. Essentially, these things will help you with that decision making. Like no or yes is a decision which you are making at that point of time based on all the data and all the insights you have. And having these insights, the whys and the alignments and the measures is very, very important. Also, like it's very, very important to understand that this decision, the no which you are making, should bring in clarity, because now you're telling everyone what's important and what's not important at that point of time based on all the other things we talked about. Clarity will essentially bring focus, because now there is no confusion. Everyone's working on the common goals and the most important things the team has on their plate. This essentially brings alignment because now everyone is working together, being productive and moving forward. Productive teams essentially ship products faster because now there is no randomization. You exactly know what you're working on. It's a very well oiled machinery. One of the things which I truly believe in is like engineering, think about it as a black box. Like what goes in is very, very important, and that those are requirements. If you are having crystal clear requirements given to your engineering team, the output of that black box in most cases will be much better. If you are having confusion, bad written requirements, that black box, that engineering black box is not going to produce effective products outside of that. And that's why like having that no clarity, focus, alignment is very, very important for you to have success for the whys, the goals you have already set up. There was a study recently done by Harvard, which said that 75% of the startups, VC-backed startups, fail because they lack focus. They want to do a lot of things. They want to shoot for the moon, and that is essentially because they are not saying no much often. Steve Jobs at one point mentioned that he is very much proud of all the things which Apple has not done, because it essentially freed up resources and time for Apple to work on everything which they delivered. So no is very, very important. And that's why I want you all to understand that no is not a negative word. It may be a hard word to say because you may have personal feelings with it. But also on the other hand, think about it. Like when you go to Starbucks, you make a coffee order. They ask you like, hey, do you need anything else? You say no. Then like an insurance agent calls you. They ask like, hey, I have a new policy. Do you want it? You say no. Saying no in those instances is very easy because it's transactional. Like you said no and you moved on. Saying no to your colleague, to someone reporting to you, to your manager, to your engineers is hard because you're working with them day in, day out. You are essentially building products together. And that's why it's very, very important to respect the idea which is coming in. And for me, it's all about conveying the no. Again, here I'm not saying no, it's like all about how do you convey no and how do you frame that no so that the person on the receiving end understands why you're saying certain things or why certain decisions are being made. One of the first thing which I do is listen to the idea. Treat it as a gift. Someone figured out a problem statement, came up with maybe two, three different solutions for it, figured out which was the right solution for it. That's the idea they are bringing to you and saying like, hey, can you put it on your roadmap? Can we work on it? So they have done a lot of hard work and they are doing all that hard work. So the first thing you need to do is like listen to that idea. Don't check your email while they are talking about it. Don't interrupt them. Don't have any assumptions for that idea. Like have a clear mind, listen out to that idea. The next thing is discuss how this aligns with the why you're doing. Earlier, we talked about having a clarity on the why and having that alignment with everyone. So this should be very easy. Like this conversation is like, okay, now let's discuss how this idea which you have is aligning with the whys which we have figured out, which are important to us. The next thing is discuss the cost and the ROI. I hope you know the project management triangle where you have time, resources, and scope. Essentially, there is no magic formula. Like you're adding more scope, that means you need more resources or you need more time. You're reducing time, that means you need to add more resources or you need to cut scope. And that's why understanding the cost of that idea plays an important role. It should not be the only criteria to say no, but it should be part of that decision making matrix. And what's the ROI back which we get with that idea? At this stage, at least what I have figured out is like most people kind of understand it's self explanatory that, like, okay, this idea may not be the right idea to pursue right now. Because essentially, you are having a very transparent conversation. You also need to help everyone understand how do you prioritize your backlog or even your roadmap. And again, it's if you're doing your whys and you're having transparency and alignment with everyone, this is essentially should be known to everyone of how you work as a product manager. Another thing is I would recommend not use I when you say no, because essentially that no is for the product which you are delivering. So it could be something like data says that this is not giving us the most ROI compared to the other features we are signing up for. Or you could say, like, looking at our goals and mission, this is not aligning well with that. And that's why we should not do it. So it's all about the team. It's not about you making that decision. You may be helping everyone get to that decision, and that's the big role you need to play. Another thing which is very very important is catering to your audience. As a product manager, you're working with humans. Every human is different. As an engineer, you're working with machines. It's much different, and that's why you need to understand, like, what motivates that person. Why are they having those ideas? Why they want to pursue that feature? And the way of saying no could change. Like, here, one example I can come up with is, let's say your manager is asking you to do, you would follow the same framework, and then you would phrase the no as a question and ask your manager, what do you think we should do in this instance? Like, according to the data, it feels like the features which are on our plate are the right features, and this should be below the line. What do you think? And then putting the question on their plate essentially helps with those conversations. Same with your peers. Like, when your peers are coming up with something, like, help them understand, like, why certain decisions are being made, and ask them, do you agree with this? And that's a very important thing, because these are the people you are going to work with day in and day out, and having their alignment is very very important. Sometimes no can be a delayed yes. Like, it doesn't need to be a no, because if you feel like, hey, this is an amazing idea, I just can't do it in the first quarter, but I could do it in the next quarter, then you could say, like, hey, let's add it to the backlog and we'll do it in the next quarter. And that way you're not saying no, but you're also setting realistic expectation. One thing which I practice a lot is only using delayed yes when I know that putting it in the backlog is going to have a realistic chance of shipping it in the next 2 3 releases. Because you don't want to be in a place where, like, you're saying, like, okay, for everything, okay, I'll put it in the backlog, I'll put it in the backlog, because then essentially, like, that person may wait a release and then come back and say, like, hey, you didn't ship my feature. And then you are again having the same conversation and saying, it's in my backlog, it's in my backlog. So setting realistic expectations on, like, okay, sorry, I can't do it, and you say no, or sometimes saying, yep, great idea, I'll do it in the next release. And that's why I use the delayed yes, uh, like, rarely. Don't use it too often, because you don't want your backlog to be like just like a parking lot for all the ideas which you don't want to say no to. The big thing about saying no is, like I said, bringing in clarity and focus. And everyone in your team needs to understand that, is like, hey, we are saying no because we are working on the most important things. Like, whether it's Microsoft or Salesforce or a startup, like, resources are always limited. If it was like, hey, I have unlimited engineers on my team, I don't need to say no to anything. I'll just say yes to each and every idea, and I'll keep on working on those ideas. But again, like, no company has that luxury. Everyone has to make cutthroat prioritizations. And the big part of cutthroat prioritization is saying no. You have to say no more than you have to say yes. And that's why, like, don't refrain from saying no. Say it at the most opportunistic time. Say it in a way where the other person understands why you're saying no. Say it as if this is part of the group. This is part of the team making that decision, and it's not a decision which you're making as an individual. And I guess with that, I am at my 18-minute mark.
Thank you so much. And now there's a chance for questions. Do you keep track of things that do not make it into the backlog? So the things you say no to, and then maybe those are ideas that will eventually become a good idea? Or do you kind of discard them and stay laser focused?
Uh, they, at Salesforce and even at Microsoft, like we always have a track of all the ideas which we have never. Because like I said, that decision is a point in time decision. So you don't want to lose on the idea. So like you log that idea, you like uh, put your reasoning on why you are deferring certain things, why you're saying no to certain things, but keep it in your backlog as deferred, because maybe like a year from now you go back to that and say like, wow, this is an amazing idea for the current time and I should go and pursue it.
We've got a lot of great questions coming. So what are some metrics you use to measure success of the product, especially in the early stage?
That's a great question, and it depends from product to product, feature to feature. And for me, it starts with the why. Like, why are you doing something, right? Like, if I am doing something to improve the security of my features, like I'll have a certain set of measures. If I'm doing something to increase the MAU for one of my product, I will have certain set of measures. And that's why like understanding of the why is where I always start, because that helps me like make decisions, that helps me come up with metrics, that helps me come up with measures.
All right. And then we had another question, which was, can you share a personal story? So somebody that would otherwise seem like hard to say no to, whether it's because they were super passionate about it or because they were your superior or you reported to them. Can you share kind of the anxiety you might have had and how you did it in that specific instance?
Nowadays, saying no is kind of easy for me. So I'll rewind back a couple of years. And this was a time when like I was 2, 3 years into product management, and it was hard for me to say no to my manager, because I thought like if my manager is saying, let's do this, I have to do it. That's my job. But the good thing is like I had really awesome mentors who helped me understand that like actually my job is to help my manager understand and say no, because I am closer to the customer than my manager. And if people are reporting to me, they are closer to the customer than me. So we have to respect that aspect. So one of the personal stories I have is like at one point when I knew that like, okay, I am actually spot on, and what my manager is asking me to do could derail us from the goals which we want to achieve. That was a hard moment for me, and like I had to really prepare, like come up with a lot of data sets and essentially go into the meeting like batting for what I thought was the right thing at that time. And my manager was super awesome. Like he said, like, wow, you did a lot of due diligence, and that's what he respects it. So again, due diligence is really important. Like if you're saying no on a whim or a gut, it's not gonna fly. Like you should have intuition. A good product manager is an intuitive data driven product manager. If you're completely data driven, then you're on like the end spectrum. If you're completely gut driven, then you're on the other spectrum. You need to be somewhere in the middle where you have your own gut, where you know, yep, this is the right thing for the customer because I know this will stick. And you have data driven approach to where you can prove that like, okay, like these are the things which the data shows, and these are the things we should do forward.
We still have time for a few more, and I think this one's interesting. What is the ratio of no versus yes? And I'm going to build upon this question. Who do you find yourself saying no to the most? Is it your counterparts from a different department? Is it your engineers and people who report to you, or is it the person you report to? So what's the ratio of no versus yes, and who do you most often have to say no to? Oh, and it could be customers even. I forgot about customers and partners.
Yeah. I don't have the exact numbers to be very honest, but like I say no more than yes. And if you think about your personal life too, you use the no word a lot in a day. Like maybe like do that exercise tomorrow, like figure out how many times you're saying no versus yes. You end up using the word no a lot. Like I said, like most no's are transactional or like in your routine life, so you don't think about it. At Salesforce and even at Microsoft, I end up saying no a lot to my peers and my partners who want me to do a lot of different things because they don't have full visibility into like what I am working on right now. So everyone is coming up with their dependencies on me and asking me to deliver XYZ, ABC, or foo. And at that time, I have to like align everyone like as a platform PM on like, okay, I'm going to work on the common aspects of all these things, the intersection, and not the one-off pieces you care for. And that's why I'm saying and no a lot to my peers. My
All right.
engineers bring up amazing ideas. So like it's very hard for me to say no to my engineers. Like some of the ideas are brilliant. I'm a big fan of like promoting bottoms up innovation because that is the best way of generating ideas. In fact, like I have like idea day kind of a thing where like you can come in and like pitch in your ideas and like we'll build the vision together to customers. It's you say no, but you say no in a different way. Sometimes you, as a PM, you have to be creative with workarounds. So rather than saying no, you cannot do this, you say, have you thought about another way of solving this problem? So you do say no to customers, but you say it in a slightly subtle, different way.
All right. And for those who are interested in kind of aligning your organization, so as Nirankush was saying, you've got your peers and you have different resources. We're going to have the chief product officer at PayScale talk about OKRs, which is one way that you could
Mhm.
align your organization so that they all know what your common purpose is, as Nirankush has said several times. We have time for a few more questions, and I'm loving the questions and the answers. So,
Jeff, one more thing. Like you mentioned OKR, so that triggers another thing for me is like at Salesforce, we have something which we call V2MOM, which essentially is a living document of each and every person at Salesforce. So Mark Benioff, our CEO, writes the V2MOM. The V2MOM is essentially the vision, values, methods, the obstacles you see for that vision and values and methods, and essentially the metrics of how you will make sure that like you're achieving that. And the beauty of this is like each and every person at Salesforce is writing that V2MOM, and it's essentially a pyramid. Like Mark writes it and it cascades down. So like each and every person's V2MOM is like working towards achieving the common goals.
okay, so I think we've got time for one more question, but then again, I'd encourage everybody to join the Foster the Product
Mhm.
LinkedIn group, and we'll get a few more questions there. Um, how to research for features to be picked for your product? Is it internal discussion driven or market research driven? Um, yeah,
It's it's a combination of multiple things. Like I said, ideas should come bottoms up. Ideas could be generated through market research. Ideas could be generated talking a lot with your customers. The customer should always be our focus, right? Like we all are building products to delight our customers. So the more you talk to your customers, the more you put yourself into their shoes, you understand the problems they are facing, the paper cuts they are facing, like the better products you're gonna build. So like there are multiple different ways like which can help you get insights from the customers and then building better products.
saying no to customers, they don't care about your business objectives as much, and they see they have a problem. So do you have any insight into any advice you would give for somebody who wants to say no or feels they need to say no to customers?
Yes, and that's why as a PM you need to be creative. Like I said, like yep, the customer would be like, yep, I understand your vision, I understand your values, I understand why you're doing this thing, but I have a problem. Like I bought your product, I paid you like XYZ dollars, I want the product to behave in a certain way. And that's why as a PM, you need to come up with an alternative way for that customer problem to be solved. In most cases, you would see that like if a particular customer is echoing a big pain point, you would see that there is a big chance that it is a common pattern across your different customer voices, and that means this is something you need to solve in your product. So at that point, like yes, you should figure out like why is it not part of your roadmap, and like why you are not working on it. Because like if multiple customers are complaining about something or wanting you to work on something, then that's a good signal that it should be in your roadmap. But if it's a one-off, like try to figure out a workaround, be creative. Part of a PM is also like rolling up your sleeves and coming up with like innovative out of the box workarounds for your customers.
And I've got one more question. I said that was going to be it, but we've got some time before we get to breakouts. And I hope everybody sticks around for breakouts, because I think it's hard for me to choose. I think it's so valuable to hear from an expert like Nirankush. And then there's also a lot of value to just seeing other people who are in the trenches with you. So if you're other students from other programs or other schools, or meeting some of the experienced product managers here, or the experienced product managers meeting students, I think there's a lot of value in just growing your network and meeting people and connecting and sharing ideas and insights into jobs and how to do this better. So stick around. But this is our last question with Nirankush, and then I'm going to have you discuss. It's not just meeting people. We're going to have you information share based off of what you learned here today. So this last question before we chew in small groups, we discuss in small groups what we learned. When you have competing priorities that meet higher level company goals, how do you make the decision to say no versus hiring more, getting more resources? You said the project management triangle, what many of us are familiar with. How do you decide between scope and resources?
I think at Salesforce, we follow the V2 MOM. If we write the V2 MOM at the start of the fiscal year, which is essentially now. Mark has written his V2 MOM. Now everyone who reports to him is writing their V2 MOM. And that is essentially an entire fiscal year V2 MOM. So if there is something in that V2 MOM and like I know I cannot deliver on it, then at this time, the scope is fixed, the time is fixed. I don't have the resources. So now is the time for me to go and ask for resources. And that's why, like when we write the V2 MOM, this is the exact time when Salesforce is thinking about adding more resources or funding season, as we call internally. And that's why both of those are aligned together.
All right. And so for those listening, if you have a resource on V2 MOM that's now come up several times, I'd encourage you to share that in the Foster the Product LinkedIn group. That's, again, a nexus of people and ideas. We keep the community going. So if one of you in this audience have done the V2, have documentation on V2 MOM and want to share that, please do so. So thanks again, everybody, for coming. I'm glad to see that we all learned together from industry leader. That's what Foster the Product is all about, is taking some of the best, having them give us 20 minutes of their time, and then some Q&A afterwards, and then a chance to network, because I really want our students to meet our alumni, to meet practitioners, and really just Foster School of Business is going to be a nexus of people and ideas that can help you launch successful products and to help advance your product career. So please come on back, make it a habit the first Thursday of every month. Chris Peterson, again, two-time NCAA head coach of the year. He had 2 undefeated seasons with Boise State, took the Huskies to Pac-12 championships twice to be the Pac-10 champions. And he's just an incredible leader. And we're going to get an opportunity to learn about leading teams and aligning stakeholders towards a common vision. Jackie Bavaro, we have a bonus event. She's wrote a new book, Cracking the PM Career. And she wrote one of the most popular books of cracking the PM interview. She's going to be here on February 18th. And then Vishal Gatke, who is my neighbor, actually, is the chief product officer at PayScale. And he's going to be talking about OKRs, which is really an important lesson of how do you align your entire organization towards common purposes, but having their own ownership of what they're responsible for. So that's March 4th. Again, joining that Foster the Product LinkedIn group on what a rad neighborhood connection. Yep. Thank you, Anthony. So we're going to have all those posted on the Foster the Product LinkedIn page, and you'll also get an email coming out in the next week or two with the recording from today and a chance to show up to the next one. So it was great to see some of my former students, great to see my current students, great to see people from all over the world come to Foster here virtually to learn and to connect with people and ideas that could help you successfully launch products. So I hope to see you next month. Bring a friend, tell other people about this, and let's grow this community and really support each other as we pursue our careers and launch products.